because they have enough information. They may not vote, and I'm getting a kick out of this, for school board and state rep. The Democratic state reps who did them dirt, the master lever 75,000. Now remember, these are the most loyal Democrats on the planet, right. And the Democratic Party, which controls the House, is doing them dirt. Now, I told a half dozen Democrats, even if those other people, the Republicans, are right, they're wrong. They've been so nasty in their commentary, so vindictive against those 75,000, actually 100,000 people. The tone is the opposite of what you need in democracy, where people don't want to vote in the first place. Mm-hmm. And then the very best voters, you're calling names, and by best voters they vote for 100% of the candidates.
Right.
I didn't say
consistent voters.
Yeah, I didn't say no. I'm just saying when they vote for all the candidates. Right. Now here's the disingenuous, dishonest, despicable elements of what the opposition to the master lever has been doing. I represented Brown University when I was in the State House, and I had in the presidential year 40% of my constituents voting at the convention center or whatever for President of the United States and U.S. Senator. And that's all. So they're arguing these 75,000 people are missing a vote for school board, and they ought to be ashamed of themselves. Well, so I'm telling you, 90% of college students in Rhode Island vote for one or two people. They're not after them for not voting for school board. Mm-hmm. Now, let's go to Gordon Fox's district. There was a year when 43% of the people in that district, normally you would look at Harold Metz's district, 63% is a norm, 60% vote the master lever. They want to vote Democratic. It's the easiest thing to do. In Gordon Fox's district, probably the most sophisticated, highly educated people in all of Rhode Island, except for my old district, right. College Hill.
And those people will never let you forget that either.
Yes.
Right.
They have done that on occasion. Now, they've done the opposite when they wanted to vote for Chafee, because they're sophisticated and they can do whatever. But there have been years when they said, oh, what the heck? And this happens all over the place. And you just do the one line, because using the black thing, and by the way, I know something about this when they call up and start challenging me. I used to be in charge of elections for 2 years when I was Deputy Secretary of State. And we're responsible for the machines. And now here is the other, Ed Inman's responsible for these new machines, which are now 12 years old. But here's the other thing they're being disingenuous about, or ignorant. I got around being able to call them ignorant. I like that. They've been calling the 100,000 people ignorant. Let me call the 25 of them ignorant. The machines are configured in such a way that you can do almost anything to them or with them. So I talked to Ken Brace, foremost expert in America on voting machines, last Monday morning, and he reminded me that we put something in that is fabulous. You ready, listeners, Providence Journal editors? You ready? So I vote straight party ticket for the Democrats, but I like, the head of the elderly affairs who ran for Secretary of State against Ralph Mollis. So I do the master lever, and then I take the black and I write her in for Secretary of State. Guess who gets the vote? She does.
Not because you've programmed the machines.
That's correct. We program the machine because everybody always has a cousin
Mm-hmm.
that they really want to vote for, even though the cousin's a moderate or a Republican or running as an independent. And we program the machine because if you go to that trouble, you put the thought in, and you should be able to override. So every single voter can override the master lever. Now, I could tell you about 12 things they have not discussed, but mainly they're not telling the truth. The people, and here's my proof. I already knew this, and then the New York Times, I love it. I don't know how I'd live without it. I try, but so I called up this professor, and I said, "You did a study that proves my point, and I want to get your study." And she says, "Oh, the study's 488 pages. I don't know who you can get to read it." But she says, I'm going to be in the New York Times in 2 days. And then here she is. Mm-hmm. And she says, I'll show this, radio is hard to see, but here's the study. The Power of Political Ignorance is what it's called. She surveyed 45,000 people over a 4-year period in 16 states.
And that's a staggering number.
That for a survey. For a political survey, it's beyond, you do your 400 and go home. She did 45,000. Someone really funded her. But anyway, what she found is what I knew. When you vote straight party, you've thought about it. The Democrats are for Social Security and a higher minimum wage. The Republicans are for restrained government and lower taxes. You actually have that in your brain, and it's intelligent opinion. It is not an ignorant opinion. And in spite of us having fun, the Democrats are more apt to stand up for low-income, middle-income people more often than the Republicans. I didn't tell you how strongly they stand up, but taking the choice, you'd go with the Democrats. And then on the other end, if you are making $5 million a year and you want to pay lower taxes, you'd go with the Republicans. And there's something to be said if you're making that kind of money to have a party that protect you. So what does she say in this study? She says that straight party people have thought about their vote and they're zealous. They're out to protect their interests, the public schools for their children, whatever. The people who split their tickets are less intelligent. They like to vote personality. They like to vote for people they want to have a beer with.
Okay.
For the good-looking woman.
So they're more susceptible to marketing campaigns.
The better the ad, the more apt they are to vote against their own interests and the interests of their family.
Interesting.
So what then?
We knew this. We already knew this.
But
let me say it again. If I'm a Democrat and I'm going to vote the master lever, you can advertise all day long. I'm not changing my opinion. And mine is not an ignorant opinion. It's based on Mrs. Roosevelt and Mr. Kennedy.
Right.
And
it's
deep-seated.
Back it up. My one question though about that is that in Rhode Island, where a lot of people run as Democrats because it gives them more publicity, and this is a fairly heavily Democratic state. There are some people who, in another era, might be called dinos. Are they benefiting from running as Democrats because of the master lever?
So let me disagree with you. I got to quit being disagreeable. You invited me to be on the
we
show.
like it when you're disagreeable.
So there are 290,000 registered Democrats.
Okay.
There are 79,000 registered Republicans, and then 350,000 unaffiliated.
Right.
Okay? This is not a Democratic state. This is a state in which we've had more Republicans have been governors for 80% of the time I've lived here. Secretary of State, Lieutenant Governor, Secretary of State twice, one for 8 years, Susan Farmer the late. And we can go through the general offices, and then we can go to the U.S. Senate with Mr. Chafee, and we can go to Congress with Claudine. So I don't buy
I would like to amend my prior statement then and say specifically looking at the General Assembly.
So what the General Assembly is about, I think, is ethnicity. I think it's ethnicity. I think you're, and again, we're going to see less of this. But you, and I don't want to name the particular groups, but they're just running on the party that they've run on, and you're correct. They are probably not. I can name you 20 members of the House of Reps who are not Democrats.
Right.
They just use that title.
Yeah.
It's very hard to run as unaffiliated or independent. The voters don't seem to like it. They want you to be a member of one party or another, and you've been a Democrat, and your father was a Democrat, and your grandfather was a Democrat.
Right.
It's very hard to change.
The question,
by the way, you don't have to change to get elected.
No.
So you're asking for truth in packaging.
Yeah, I'm asking
no,
for
but
people
you're
who really
defining what a
be
Democrat is, and I'm not sure, because let me say something
well, the
weird
Democrats are a
and
big
nice.
tent. They are a big tent.
But let me say something weird and nice.
Okay.
The Republicans in Rhode Island are so much better than the national Republicans as people. They really are.
I would agree with that.
And then the Democrats here, the only state in the nation democratically controlled in which we required ID. Okay? Now, it was a fluke, and it's very complicated, and one day you'll read the book and you'll see what happened. but that would never happen in any other democratic control state.
Right.
As we go into the break, the question I want to hang out there is, to what do you ascribe the various movements' decision to support the elimination of the master lever? I want to throw that out there before we go into the break, and after we come back, maybe you can give us some background on that. Tony?
Well, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to wrap up another exciting episode of The Coalition, online at coalitionradio.us and over the air on AM 790, your station for talk and business. Attention gardeners, farmers, growers, homesteaders, and horticulturalists. Coming soon to 1889 Post Road in Warwick, Rhode Island, it's The Grow Store. For all your indoor gardening supplies, it's The Grow Store. Mike's Professional Tree Service offers top-of-the-line tree removal, trimming, stump grinding, stump removal, and so much more. Mike's Professional Tree Service will do everything to safeguard your home and property and is fully licensed and insured. Call them today at 401-823-7485 for a free estimate on tree service, tree removal, trimming, and tree care. That's 401-823-7585. Mike's Professional Tree Service are the tree experts serving all of Rhode Island. Online at mikesprotree.com. That's mikesprotree.com. Attention gardeners, farmers, growers, homesteaders, and horticulturalists. Coming soon to 1889 Post Road in Warwick, Rhode Island, it's The Grow Store. For all your indoor gardening supplies, it's The Grow Store. Midday Records is a label that is comprised of local artists and exists for the sole purpose of helping other local artists find new opportunities and to help build a more thriving New England music scene. Midday Records hosts the area's fastest-growing music-related networking event, the Midday Social, books Midday Records presents shows throughout New England, releases compilations featuring local music, promotes bands through the Midday blog, are the co-founders of Music for Pause, and has recently started an artist development and management division. Stay up to date with Midday Records by checking them out on your favorite social media site like Facebook and Twitter, and find them online at middayrecords.com. That's middayrecords.com. Tony Jones here. You are tuned in to The Coalition online at coalitionradio.us and over the airwaves on AM 790, your station for talk and business. Unfortunately, P.O. Chris, another exciting episode of The Coalition. It is drawing nigh, as the kids say.
Alas.
Alas. Well, that's why, before the break we asked a question. Let me just throw this out there again. Mr. Rickman, to what do you ascribe people's motivations behind all this? Give us that backdrop, if you will.
So I think the good government people always need a good government issue. And unfortunately, the last 15 years, the conservatives have been dreaming up what the issue is. This is back to liberals, progressives not being very good at what they do. Because we should be dreaming up reform and pushing it out there and getting them to come with us. I believe the Republican Party believes they're going to get people not to vote if they take away the ease of the master lever. And I don't think it's going to happen. I think they're going to vote, particularly on the major offices. Those are serious voters coming to vote, and they're not going to not vote.
Yeah, they're going to go ahead and fill in all the lines.
We got rid of the big, old, ugly metal machine, and they learned how to use the new one. And they'll do this, too. This is not the end of the world. Of those 75,000 Democrats and 25,000 Republicans, I predict 25,000 of those Republicans will vote, and 72 or 3,000 of the Democrats. So they've done a lot of name-calling for nothing.
Mm-hmm. And
now,
they haven't converted anyone. You know, if you call someone stupid,
oh,
they're not